as close to the property as possible if they wanted to continue activity. And the part of the reason we did that, because when Keith analyzed the system, he found that there was no backdoors on the backup domain controller or any of those systems. So it seemed like every time this guy wanted to get on, he would show up there, sit in his hotel room or condo, get on the wireless network, and make his way into the network. So we turned down the transmit power. What we also did in addition to that is we used directional antennas and sectored the transmission of the signal. So we said we're going to sector it, and if he wants to come close, he has to come on the east side of the store, so we can keep a watch for who this might be. So it was like a Law and Order episode going on here. Well, unfortunately, I guess, there's several reasons for it, but just when we were getting that close, the company we were working for called off the investigation. They said, we know enough about the attack, we know how to fix it, and Keith Jones is very expensive, so we do not want you guys hanging around here anymore. Well, actually, that wasn't the reason. Part of the reason was all of this happened in the peak retail season. So this was happening around Thanksgiving, the holiday season time. And the CIO of this company was rather worried that we were playing around with the infrastructure to be able to catch this one person, and said it's in the best interest of business to call off the investigation for right now and focus on remediating the measures, which probably is something that I would have done if I was in his position. So we agreed with that. But I did want to pose a question to you all here. So one of the things we were thinking about is, how do we try to get this person closer to the facility? Like I said, we turned down the power, we sectored the signals. One of the aspects I was struggling with, well, I can map out signals transmitting from access points and so on with just laptop running Kismet. Is there an easy way, and please don't tell me about expensive spectrum analyzers here, but is there an easy way to be able to map out signal strength of a client? Does anyone know about that? So I could try and trace where a client's signal might be coming from. Has anyone worked with any such tools?
Set up some outside APs along the outside edge of the parking lot.
Okay.
Low power, see which one he associates to first.
Uh-huh. That definitely sounds like a good suggestion too. Yes?
For some of those pre-com gear, other stuff you can actually triangulate.
Yeah. See, a part of our struggle was we thought about the triangulation, setting up additional access points, but it was a very limiting situation where they were not ready to put any new infrastructure given the freeze, given the high business period. And so we had to work with what was there, antiquated infrastructure. We had to try to figure out this client signal just using equipment that we had. And I really couldn't think of an easy way to do this. But anyways, if any of you can think of something, I'd be happy to chat with you after this talk, because we might run into a similar situation in the future. What we did conclude from this was that there was a high probability of insider involvement. We couldn't say with certainty that it was an insider because we did not catch the person. So just to reiterate, we saw no footprint of reconnaissance. We saw that one of the few older wireless installations was attacked. So they knew that their wireless infrastructure was old. They were migrating to newer technology. It was this particular one. The person who was in charge of the IT had been fired, like I said. There was sniffing for very specific TCP ports on the credit card server. And the attacker's activity coincided with the times that the batch files were processed for credit card processing as well. So it was a very, very knowledgeable person here. Unfortunately, we were not able to lay his hands on him. Yes?
What made you guys think he would come back in wireless anyway if he had a VPN tunnel on?
Right, good question. What made us think that he would come back over wireless? There was, potentially could have set up backdoors anywhere on the network. What we did find from the network logs and the firewall logs was that a repeated access of those servers over a period of time coming over the wireless network. So we thought that was our best bet to start off with. Yes?
It sounds like you did a live investigation of the original workstation. Doing a forensic image of it first?
Yes, we did. And, I guess just in the interest of time, since I have one more case study to go through here, I'd be happy for Keith Jones to talk about what we found on the actual forensic on the hard drives from forensic duplication and the live response that we conducted on them. Yes.
Two questions. One is, were you honestly shocked that the company was PCI compliant? And second is, you noticed the extensive firewall logging as being there because they were trying to reverse engineer a large rule set.
Right.
Typically find that logging of commit traffic is just not done. And so how do you reverse engineer what happened if you're not logging?
Okay. the two questions are, was I shocked that they were PCI compliant and they were still hacked? The answer to that is no. I'm not shocked. PCI doesn't cover every area for starters. And secondly, it's, again, like I said, I don't use my words as carefully as Keith Jones does, so don't hold me on this one. But again, in my opinion, there's a lot of companies out there that get PCI certified in a week's worth of work, which I don't know how that happens to a retail organization of this size. And your second question was extensive logging, even the permits being logged. Was that surprising to me? Or do we see that often? We do not see that often. I think we lucked out here that we saw that just because they did have some network maintenance activities on. But that brings up a good point, because in both the cases we've seen so far, had there not been enough logging at the VPN gateway in the case Keith talked about, had there not been enough logging on the firewall rule sets, it would have been extremely difficult for us to figure out the anatomy of this attack. Yes?
You said that the OpenVPN client had an IP address in it that was related to a foreign country.
Mm-hmm.
Which one? And you also said that the sysadmin had recently been fired.
Right.
Were you able to, did you ever bother to determine whether or not the sysadmin who was recently fired had either a personal or professional connection somewhere in that foreign country?
So as part of the activity that we were limited to, we did some basic searches to see who owned that IP address and so on. We didn't really get involved in the personnel investigation aspect of it, given our expertise here. We could not, just by looking at the IP address and doing lookups on it and who is lookups, etc., tie it back to the person who had been let go. But again, like all of you know, it makes it very iffy once you see activity going outside the borders of the United States or whichever country you're operating in. It makes it extremely difficult to get law enforcement cooperation. Yes?
Were you working with the actual physical hard drive of the machine, or were you working from an image copy?
We were working with the image copy is what we did, right?
Yeah,
Keith,
we started with the physical hard drive. We took an image of it, and then we analyzed the image.
Is there any issues with chain of custody?
No, because we kept it from the beginning.
Yeah.
What, if anything, was done to protect the owners of the credit cards?
Very good question. What happened about the fact that there was potentially credit card data that was lost, and there was owners who might lose their identity? Unfortunately, we're never in a position to opine on that subject, since that's not our area, that we're supposed to recommend. We're under confidentiality agreements, so we don't reveal that. But what I can say here is that a lot of the law out there, including SB 1386 and so on, says with reasonable doubt. There's a lot of caveats and use of adjectives and so on, and it's easy to work around that, saying there was reasonable doubt here, there was not sufficient. Any sort of a sufficient impact.
Stop. The short answer is they didn't tell us. There you go.
Well, I was trying to do a Keith Jones there, the legal talk there with all the use of the caveats, but he got me on that one. So just again, in the interest of time, we got another quick case study to do for you guys here. But do want to highlight before we do that you do see the importance of extensive logging does help. A short story here. I once did get into a friendly argument with a system administrator at a place where I was performing penetration testing about 5 years ago, where the system administrator said, if I have my inbound firewall rule set all locked down, I do not need egress filtering. And so that was similar. I hold that very close to the argument that myself and another gentleman sitting in this room that I won't name, we were both on the same side of the argument, had with someone else when we were responding to an incident who claimed that HTTPS ran on port 445. When you get into those situations, it's kind of hard to debate those. But, so you see the point here. Extensive logging did help in both the cases that we've seen so far. So that being said, I'm going to move on to the next case here. Call it Who Let the Cat Out of the Bag. I'll just brief you again on the case, and then I'll pass it for all the technical details as usual to Keith Jones, the master. 8:25 p.m. on March 18, 2005. This is at a law firm. And that's where Keith really, he excels when he has to deal with lawyers. So a law firm getting hacked is the best situation for Keith Jones. Kidding. No, enough of bashing on Keith here. But what we found that there was a lawyer sitting at his desk, working late as usual, and trying to get some sort of a legal document uploaded to their document management system and go home finally. Well, he was struggling because what he found that every time he tried to upload the document, it said, "You've reached your storage limit. Please call your systems administrator." Well, the systems administrator's voicemail indicated that he was on vacation. And again, I've altered the name of the person here. That's why you see the Joe Schmo. He was on vacation from the 7th of March to the 21st of March. And this happened on the 18th. So he was out of luck. There were still 3 days to go. Investigation at a later point revealed that there were about 500 gigs of MP3s and MPEGs. And mind you, 2005, 500 gigs was still a lot of usage of storage space. MP3s, MPEGs, Ricky Martin, what have you, all on there. Pirated software found in this document management system. Most importantly, under Joe's profile, Joe, the system administrator. So all the malware or the files, the MP3s and so on, were under Joe's profile on that document management system. So again, forensics examiners, Keith Jones and myself, were hired, and we got in there, looked at Joe's hard drive, made a forensic image like he said, and we started looking at it. Amongst other things, we looked at a lot of things, obviously, but the focus of this engagement is we're looking at the web browsing activity. We looked at the web browsing activity because that's what gave away the anatomy of the attack to us. So we looked at, there was both Internet Explorer and Firefox installed on the system. And I'll let Keith pick it up from here because he is the expert on web browsers.
It all started with, Keith, you want to do a presentation with me. I'll be on vacation this time next year, Rohit. So basically, there's 2 different browsers that most people use, i.e. Firefox. We have to go in and figure out what did they do when they were on the web. There's a lot of different areas that we can look at. Everybody's heard of cookies? You can look at cookies, see what domains they went to. Probably the most useful are the history logs of the different places they went to, and the cache. What the cache gives us is, since copies of the websites are downloaded in order to display, and the next time you go back, it displays it really quick. What we're able to do is actually see what the attacker saw, which doesn't get to happen very often. I'm going to skip over a lot of this technical detail because it's in your slides, but here are the places on the disk that IE stores its cache pages, history, and cookie files. In the IE sense, there's the index.dat file, which is kind of like the card catalog into your cache, your history, and so forth. It maps the URLs to the cached files. It's a proprietary format, but lots of people, including myself, have looked into it, and it's pretty simple to figure out what the format is, where you can see the URLs, the times, and so forth. You can't pick these things up and do them by hand because they're usually several megabytes large. I wrote a tool a while back called Pasco. It's a command line Unix Windows tool that goes through and it chops these things up and gives it to you in a nice little comma delimited format such as this. And what we did is we ran it through a tool just like this, popped it up, says user X went to this website at this particular time, and it just lists line after line after line. But more importantly, in the cached directory, what it does is it says, he went to this website, here's a chunk of the web page that he downloaded when he went to this website. So, we can go back, take a look at pieces of information, like, for instance, email, right? If they're at Hotmail, if they're at Gmail, and so forth. And that's what we did, is we pulled back a particular cache file from that information, and you can see, here's a piece of a Hotmail